and welcome to the show. Now, when I say dancing pencils, I know what you may be thinking about, but I must say you're absolutely wrong. Dancing Pencils is an organization established by Felicity Keats Morrison because of the enormous need for literacy, with South Africa at the bottom of that list, as you may have just found out. The aim is to encourage creative writing worldwide through skills transfer to children and adults and the establishment of writing clubs wherever they might be. And now that's something that is really needed in South Africa, and so I've got the lady that's on top of that all. Felicity, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. Now, before we started the show, I know we had a bit of a brief chat, and I noticed that you are very passionate about what you're doing, and this project is a big project. I think that it has a rollover to many people and that it has an impetus on lots of people's lives as we find it today, especially the youth. But for us to understand your project, I like understanding you as Felicity and what drives you. So who is Felicity?
I am an ordinary person like you, really, but I fell in love with writing when I was about 28, and I did all the courses, journalism, short story writing. I was a children's author with Tafelberg, and then in 1990 I learned so much about writing, and I also learned how to switch to the right side of the brain, and I started teaching that in 1990. And immediately the people wrote publishable work, and they said, we can't just be heard, we've got to be heard, we need a platform. So I started a publishing concern, Umsinsi Press, which gives them the platform to be heard so they can have their work published. And then in 1999 I wrote a book called Dancing Pencils, and I think it was the first book in the world to give out the secret of how to actually access that major part of our brain that we don't use, the right brain. And after that, I trained nationally right around the country in various education departments. And in 2002, we started Dancing Pencils writing clubs under a mentor, because I couldn't reach everybody. But if I can train and transfer my knowledge to a mentor, that mentor can run that club anywhere they like.
Correct.
And we're not trying to charge money, they do it with no club fees.
Of course. I always ask people this question, and the question that I want to know is that there are defining moments in people's lives, and I call them that all the time, that defines what people do after a certain point. So, for example, there's an incident that happens, and that maybe perhaps leads people to do certain things. So otherwise we end up in a vicious cycle of life, and that's we go to work every day, after work see to the kids, go sleep, get up the next morning, and we just keep doing the same thing. But then there are people like you, that there must have been a life-defining moment that made you decide that you want to help the world in a certain area, and that's literacy. What was that defining moment for you?
I think I put it back to being a girl guide when I was very young. And a girl guide promise was I promised to do my best, to do my duty for God and the country, to help other people at all times, and to obey the guide law. And the highest, best I can ever do is help people to discover their right brains, because it's the ethical, moral side of ourselves. It has secrets about you that your left brain can't get. And it's life transforming, because so when I transform my life, I just would like to give people the opportunity to transform theirs. And we've actually found that anybody doing right brain, we've checked 10 years down the line what has happened to you after you've done a right brain and published, and we found they have the most amazing careers, because the right brain doesn't believe in failure, doesn't believe that you can't do anything. So doesn't matter your circumstances, where you come from, what race or religion you are, or whatever, you can do anything you like, and that right brain will help you do that. And it's just wonderful to transfer this on to other people.
So you've encapsulated these findings and these philosophies into the concept of Dancing Pencils as an organization. So basically that's the underlying premise of the organization, is to explore those areas. How did that come about? I know that you had the book going, but how did that come about from the point of view that you're saying that you discovered this, or rather you sort of tapped into it more, if this is what I'm understanding. Yeah. How did that all happen?
I think in 1960s there was I had one of the people who changed my life was a mentor, Faye Goldie. She was a Fleet Street journalist who came to South Africa, passionate about writing, and she ran a number of writing courses. She called it the New Era School of Writing, and I was a member, and I took all her courses. And her passion converted me. And I just discovered so much about writing. She introduced me to what's called free writing. Now, free writing belongs to the left brain. It's your subconscious. Mine belongs to the right brain. And it was a journey of discovery as I went along. And often people would ask me questions, and in that moment, I would get an answer. So what I have developed started with something, but it has just grown through discovery, put it that way. And so what I've got now is a fantastic method, and I've got it recorded in books of how to write. I've got it in a double dancing CD with 59 creative exercises, but it has evolved slowly, but it started with Faye Goldie in the 1960s.
That's an interesting story. Now we see the formalization of an organization, Dancing Pencils, we see the book. And so how's that journey been? The organization itself. It's an interesting name, I must admit.
Yeah.
Catches one's attention there.
It began with a dozen housewives of different races and anthologies called Felicity Keats and Company, and we called the first one Sundowners, and it was about endings, and there was different people, different races writing about an ending of some sort. And I had to bond my house to get the money to do that. And then I bonded it again for the next thing. And you can't keep bonding your house all the time.
That's interesting. Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you, and I think you did that because you were passionate about this. You knew you were onto something, yeah, and you were prepared to put your head on the block for that.
I risked a lot for it, you know.
Yes, of course.
And then I thought, well, I can't keep doing this. So I looked around for something that wasn't get me into that amount of financial problems. And my granddaughter, who's now about 26, when she was 4, I was learning children's writing. I read her a children's story, and she laughed. She said, "Grandma, that is so boring." And she looked around the kitchen, and she made up a story there and then about a stove that ate the kitchen, it ate the pots, it ate everything, and it was standing out in the open. And that is when I started deciding to listen to children, because I do believe we should listen to children. And so I took her story and I added story elements. I said, why was the stove angry? And I thought, well, maybe the young lady in the house had bought a microwave and didn't want that old stove any longer. And maybe the stove got angry. So I added various story elements to it, and then looking around for something to do, a magazine had taken it to publish, but they folded and they sent it back. So I knew it was publishable. It was.
Of course, the fact that they considered it.
They had already set it up for publication, so I knew it was publishable standard. So I took that, and my granddaughter was now 8, and she did the illustrations because I found my people were terrible. So I drew the stove and she drew the people, and she just scribbled them. Today she's a graphic artist, qualified through Grahamstown University and Cape Town AAA art thing. But she scribbled them, and that old stove was a book that I launched that later the department took it as a reader. So between us we wrote reader suitable for schools. And that started the entire revolution for children writing their own stories. I have over 2,000 published titles now in 20 years, and of them 2/3 are by children, teenagers and pre-teens. And that's where you get the transformation of the life, because they learn the skill of writing, because the right brain's lateral, it brings along a flow of language. It uses language better than the left brain because it taps into the left brain, gets whatever it wants. So whatever the left brain's learnt, the right brain uses it. It sees visually in pictures.
If I may ask you a blunt question, yeah. You are saying that in the end of the day, and yes, I believe what you are saying, yeah. But you're saying at the end of the day, if you can get people to tap into the right side of the brain, it would mean that they would be living a better, fulfilled life, because they are able to tap into areas that they never thought was imaginable on their part, because people are complacent about what they can achieve. So you're saying tapping into the right brain is going to make sure that they unlock that power, that maybe that power of manifestation, whatever it may be, and they are able to dream and achieve those dreams through that. So your focus as a person is to say, I'll teach you how to fish instead of giving you the fish.
So yes, exactly. And the amazing thing is, it's not only about writing. You actually, what I do, you tap into the pure area of creativity. I've never done science, but I believe it's this plank area where it's before thought. And as they, I make them shut their eyes, and as you open your eyes, you're in the area of creativity. So if you are a dress designer or a cook or a baker or a gardener or a writer or an artist, whatever, what you're going to do right then is going to be creative, which is very different from the left brain, thought out, methodical. It's been done before. All you're doing is regurgitating something somebody's told you. But whereas in the right brain, it's totally new, it's creative. 90% of the unknown is available to the right brain. And new ideas and new thoughts, new dreams, new possibilities come. Einstein got his theory through what he saw, visualized with his right brain, and then he proved it with his left brain. So you do need both sides of the brain, but the left brain has been getting all the focus. Now, King must now come back into its place, and that's the right brain must come, take its place.
It's interesting. Have you ever thought, what were the thoughts of neurologists, for example, and people within the scientific medical fraternity, if they were listening to, have they ever tried debating with you or trying to understand what you were saying, and what's their thoughts around that in any case?
Look, I've got to be calm, but but all I can say is that on YouTube, under TED Talks, there's a very, very nice video clip by Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, who was a Harvard professor in the brains.
Yes.
She had a stroke. She lost the use of her left brain. And if you watch that video, she actually shows you the left brain is lineal, the right brain is lateral. She shows they're two distinct.
So lineal, we're talking about straight down. Yeah. Lateral, we're kind of talking about.
So she actually says each one of us has like two different people in us. And that you can, and what she says, the more you switch to the right or step to the right and live in your right brain, the happier and more peaceful this planet will be. And that's
an interesting statement.
That connects us all as one, which is what it's harmonious, it's happy, it's positive, it's believing, it's creative, it's problem solving, it's many things, and it's happy. Whereas the left brain, she says, it divides you. Your ego comes in place, I am. And that divides you from everybody else. And there you get your arrogance, your problems. With the left brain makes problems, it can't solve them.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Well, in your view, is medical science focusing more on the left brain?
I would say so, because the left brain is I mean, you know, they're doing wonderful things with science, but in the left brain it's verbal. And the right brain's intuitive. Look, I don't agree. I just know mine works.
Yes.
For instance, many years ago, I had to do a talk to 800 librarians in Joburg, Gauteng, and it was education people, and I had the books that we have published there, and somebody stood up and she said, "You say this, and this." And the curriculum says this, and that. So how can you prove it? So I just looked at her. I often get thrown questions. I looked at her with a little smile, and I said, I've got a BCom, not a BA. And so I can't argue with her on that. And I said, on top of that, the right brain is non-verbal, so I can't get into an argument with you. But all I know is that the proof is that it works. And I showed them all the books that had been written and published, beautiful books. And 799 people clapped, and the lady sat down. So it's very hard to prove what the right brain does. You cannot prove how the sun comes up or anything. You cannot prove it. You can only see the results.
So you're talking about the Oxford lecturer, for example, that had the stroke, and you're saying that she was into studying the brain, I suppose.
Yes, she was.
And so you're saying that, so she goes and she experiences certain things through her stroke.
Yes, and she could now study it firsthand. She's having a stroke.
So when one looks at that example, and I think it's a lovely example, when one looks at that example, you are effectively saying that she came to the same determinations via that experience, and she understands the working of the brain. Yes. So there might be a correlation of some level of proof and identity to that.
Yes.
Be that as it may, so the organization is operational. I know that you have some challenges which we'll talk about now. And so you tell us a bit about the daily workings of the organization. I know that you came into the studio with some younger writers and some other people. We're going to chat to them a bit later. So the operations every day, how does that go?
I started the mental program, as I said, in about 2002, writing clubs. That was 12, 15 years ago. Initially, we had help from the Department of Education, and we trained 13 mentors in 7 schools in the Escort area, and Ladysmith area rather. And today, 3 of those mentors are still going. Zola Primary have been going for 12 years. But some of them drop out. Either they change schools or there's not support or whatever. But it depends on the passion of the mentor. If you get a mentor who passionately loves this and wants to help the children, that writing club will grow and thrive. But finance is a big thing. So Zola Primary started with five learners, and I think today they've got 2 clubs, 3 mentors, and probably 45 learners. They brought a whole bunch of children down to. So we have an annual book launch for those who want to publish. Now the publication, they can carry on writing. We're not trying to make money out of anybody. There are no club fees. Once a mentor's been trained, that mentor can run that club. It's better if they do it on a weekly basis, that the children even half an hour. And the rules are, the right brain is very different from the left brain. We use unlined paper because it gives you freedom. You may not think before you start writing, you may not cross out anything, and you may not stop. So in 10 minutes they learn to, the right brain takes control over the left brain. Do not let the left brain come in.
Well, that's interesting. Never thought about that.
You don't let that. Once the left brain.
Stop using lines.
It's very different writing. I had teachers. So one day she wrote on a line paper, next day unlined, and her colleague said, "Your writing's entirely different today. Yesterday you were using lines." So all your teachers they ever had control you.
It's sort of allowing that creativity to come out.
Yeah, they're telling you punctuate,
Yes.
don't be socially correct, use full stops, use capitals. All those subliminal messages are coming out. Whereas if you have unlined paper, write anyhow you like, big, small, sideways, upside down, any language. Don't worry about your spelling. What happens? You get a flow, a huge flow of ideas and language.
And so once you got that down,
Yes.
an editor can always take that information and then decide to punctuate all of that.
Purely technical. You know you can punctuate and spell it correctly afterwards.
Yes.
And that's where we get...
It's about drawing out the information.
Yes, and education is
Right.
educate. It means draw out from someone, and this
Yes.
is drawing
Oh,
this out
interesting,
from you, you know. And you should see the children relax, their shoulders relax and smiles come on their face. When you say nothing you do is wrong,
Yes.
because the right brain doesn't understand wrong. It just does, it believes it's going to succeed.
Correct.
So therefore the children relax, and actually the first thing that comes out is problems, because traumas pop out. So it's therapeutic and healing as well. And it A, heals the person, and B, it makes very good story material for somebody reading it,
Correct.
because they can see there's a solution to maybe a problem they have. And children are by far the better mentors or teachers for other children than an adult writing a story for them, because they think differently.
Correct. Yes. Felicity, I know that the organization, like any organization that's going out there to try and change the world on whichever level they can, has challenges. Lots of those challenges, and which is a common trait in organizations, is the fact that they are always cash-strapped, or government or any organizations or individuals are maybe not coming to the table to assist the cause. I know we spoke about this before the show, so I think we make an appeal to our viewers at the same time to get involved with organizations like yourself, to support those organizations, to lobby government to support organizations like that, because having people and a nation that's on the bottom of the list of literacy is a big, big, bad sign, and that needs to change. What's your dream in conclusion? What's your dream about? When you see all of this, what's that dream you have? Probably coming from the right side of your brain, what is that dream?
Mine is a very big dream. My
Yeah.
dream is a literate sub-Saharan Africa, starting with a literate South Africa. But that is a huge, huge, huge mammoth thing to do. And the big thing is we need massive finance. At the moment, this has been kept going for the last 10 years by my little publishing concern, Umsinsi, which itself is not doing too well at the moment. So my son in the UK is helping to support at the moment. And that's where we get our funding from. So we cannot do very much with that. I give them a monthly newsletter. We're giving them a launch for 500 in Durban. And the children are coming from 7 educational districts at now their own cost. They're Shishlui, Lembi, all over. And I'm very proud that those schools have managed to survive on their own with the stamina of a passionate mentor, maybe a little bit of funding from the school. But we really need, this is about the future. These are your leaders. These children sitting in the schools, rural schools particularly, they are your leaders in the future. And my dream is to help them help themselves, and helping them make their lives wonderful. They will help the country, they'll help the world. We could be the best. Literacy is what holds us back. And writing comes before reading. Somebody had to write something before you can read it. So people, I feel, emphasize the wrong thing when they say get reading. No, get writing. And from the writing, people read each other's and they get interested in reading. So you will read.
Of course. Thank you very much for coming into the show.
We have a non-profit website. It's dancingpencils.org.za. You'll see a little bit of what we do.
Of course. I think what we're going to do is we're going to have your details at the tail of the show, and I'm sure we have that on during the show, your details, so people can get in touch with you. In conclusion, I want to say that if it's you that's tapping into that right side of your brain and these are the thoughts that's coming out, and it's something that I definitely want to start doing, and I'm going to get involved. I believe in what you're doing, and I support what you're doing. Thank you, Felicity.
Thank you. It's been lovely being here. Thank you.
We're going to chat to some of the people around Felicity. I know that there's some youth, some younger budding writers, get some of their thoughts, and then we'll come back to you just after that.
My thoughts on Felicity Keats Morrison. Well, I met her in 2006. She's one amazing woman. She runs the Dancing Pencils Literacy Program. It's a national program in the country. And I have started a club with her called the Chats with Dancing Pencils Writing Academy. Teaches young children how to use their right brain for creative writing and ultimately publish and write their own books. How the community can help, in terms of the project itself, it's a non-profit organization, so this is not meant as a money-making scheme. Rather, it's a community development project, it's a social upliftment program, especially for young children, even though we have adult authors. And how the community can help is just to get involved, let children know the importance of reading and then ultimately writing. We're so inundated with social media and the television, not that there's anything wrong with it. However, we need to know that our children need to have a book and need to have something substantial to write about, and that only comes from reading. So parents need to get involved. Find out, go onto our website, www.dancingpencils.co.za.
Yes, the right brain has really helped me and helped me improve in many of my subjects, including maths and English. Now I have written my essays at speed, and my teachers also are really shocked at me, and they say that this has improved my mentality. I had 80s and 90s, and in grade 7 level I took 12 awards, including the ducks, and I was head prefect of my school.
My first book was A Girl Who Found Friendship in a Pixie. It was related to the passing away of my granny, and so sometimes even kids nowadays go through that and they need sort of an inspiration to that and a way of coping and dealing. So that book was based to motivate kids or help them through these phases. The second book, Overcomers, is basically about children who are abused at homes because of their family situations. So that was also to help them to know that they're not alone, that people go through that, also other children. My message to Miss Felicity would be that I'm very grateful to have met her. I'm very grateful to be placed in her program. She's been an inspiration. Also, the way she comes across is very motivating and encouraging. So I like that.
I think the dancing pencils helped me to polish up my writing, and it presented me with many opportunities. And I've also met a lot of brilliant people along this journey, and I'm very grateful for whatever they have done for me. I think Felicity Keats Morrison is one of the most amazing, inspirational, and motivational people I've ever met, and I'm truly grateful for whatever she has done for me. And she is a darling, and I love her a lot. She's amazing. Do write about what you love and what motivates you. You will never know that there are other people out there that your writing might change, and writing is a very powerful tool to communicate to the world, and you never know, you might even save someone's life with your writing.
Well, as you've seen now, the youngsters, they're all involved in what they're doing. They're really implementing what Felicity's put out there. Dancing Pencils is doing excellent work, and I think it's something that you as our viewers need to support. Lobby government to support this. If we have a literate nation, then we can go many places. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.